All right, welcome back. Professor RealTalk here. In the last video, I told you that law is everywhere. Now, I want to make it personal. So let's zoom in and look at where you're already living inside business law without even realizing it. Let's start with side hustles. Some of you already are flipping sneakers online, maybe selling crafts on Etsy, maybe reselling tickets or driving Uber on the weekends. Guess what? You've just stepped into a legal zone. Taxes, consumer protection, licensing, liability, it's all there. For example, say when you sell clothes on Depop or Poshmark, someone claims your shirt was fake, or worse, it gave them a rash. Suddenly, you're dealing with consumer law. Did you misrepresent the product? Did you violate a platform rule? Could someone actually demand their money back? That's law creeping into your hustle. Now, let's talk workplace. If you've ever gotten a new job and signed an employee handbook or an offer letter, you just agree to terms that might affect your pay, your rights, even what happens if you get fired. I'm not exaggerating. I had a student once who took a job at a startup, signed some onboarding docs, didn't even think about it. 2 years later, he tried to leave to start his own gig. Well, the company hit him with a non-compete agreement. He didn't even know he signed it. He had basically agreed that he couldn't work in the same industry for a year after leaving this one. His career got delayed 12 months because of one line in one document. That's the law. Now, how about tech? So let's be honest. Nobody reads the terms of service. When we download an app, it's like 74 pages of text in 6-point font. You just scroll, hit accept, and move on. But those contracts control more than you think. You ever wonder why social media companies can use your photos and ads? Or why your data gets sold? You agreed to it. You clicked yes. That little checkbox was a contract. And don't even get me started on everyday stuff, like buying a car. That's contracts plus consumer law on steroids. When you see a sticker on a used car that says as is, what it really means is once you drive this baby off the lot, any problem that comes up, it's your problem, not the dealer's. Engine blows the next day, well, too bad. You signed away your rights when you took that car as is. Now, here's the bigger point. Business law isn't abstract. It's not just dusty old cases and law books. It's about power and protection. Who holds the power in a contract? Who gets protected when something goes absolutely wrong? And most importantly, where do you stand in that equation? So let's break that down. When you're an employee, the company has the power. They write the handbook, they make the policies, and they have the lawyers. You sign because you want the job. But if you understand employment law, you start to realize where you still have rights, like overtime, or protection from discrimination, or the right to report unsafe conditions. When you're a consumer, big companies write the contracts. Amazon, Apple, Netflix, they control the fine print. But if you know your rights under consumer law, you can sometimes push back. You can return a defective product, challenge a charge, or get out of a shady subscription renewal. Same thing when you run your own business. You've got power too, but you have to protect yourself. If you're selling a product, do you have a refund policy in your writing? If you're doing freelance work, do you have a contract that says when you get paid and what happens if the client ghosts you? If you don't, you're at risk. And in business, risk means liability. And liability, well, that means losing money. So here's your takeaway for this week. Start paying attention to where law shows up in your life, not in some far off courtroom, but right in front of you. Notice the contracts you're signing at work, online, even just grabbing Wi-Fi at a coffee shop. Notice the rules of platforms you use, like TikTok, Instagram, Uber, Airbnb. All those companies live and die by legal terms, and they drag you into them every time you click yes. Notice how power shifts depending on whether you're the customer, the employee, or the business owner. Now, let me give you one last quick story. A student of mine once started a little side hustle selling homemade body scrubs at farmers markets. Totally innocent. She never thought about law. One day, a customer claimed the scrub gave them an allergic reaction. Boom. She gets a letter threatening to sue. Was she a bad person? No. But she didn't label her product with ingredients. She didn't carry liability insurance, and she had no legal protection in place. That single letter almost ended her business. She learned the hard way the law shows up the second you step into a business. That's why we're doing this. Not to scare you, but to open your eyes. Once you can see where law touches your life, you can start making smarter moves. You can negotiate. You can push back, protect yourself, and even use the law to your advantage. So this week, here's what I want from you. Play detective. Notice where you bump into business law. Notice the waiver at the gym. Notice the refund policy on the food delivery app. Notice the onboarding paperwork at your job. Write them down if you want. Share them with me, or just keep them for yourself. But train your brain to see what most people ignore. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's the whole point. Business law isn't for lawyers. It's for you. It's for the hustler, the student, the worker, the dreamer, everyday people who just don't want to get blindsided. All right, that's it for part 2. Next week, we'll dive into contracts. And I promise you, I'll break it down so simple that you'll never look at a smartphone, you'll never look at a Starbucks coffee the same way again. Offer acceptance, consideration, 3 words that explain almost every deal you've ever made. You'll see contracts everywhere. And when you do that, you'll be able to play the game much smarter. Till then, keep your eyes open. Law isn't out there somewhere. It's in your pocket, it's in your inbox, and it's in your everyday moves. Pay attention, and you'll start to see just how much power you really have.